In our society, inventions are not always specific. The wheel is a great example of such an invention. Drive a car on the interstate, flatten out dough to make a pastry, create unimaginable wonders. These creations hold the power to transform life as we know it. Another such invention is far less discussed, yet its influence is seen everywhere. As far back as 6000 BC, the paddle was used to propel water-bound vessels across the sea. Other applications include cooking, swimming, and recreational games. Oh, and discipline. Every millennial and Gen Z adult remembers their parents talking about the paddle. You talked in class? Smacked on the ass. You said a swear word? You got the paddle. Paddles were often used as a means to discipline our parents' generation, a method that seems cruel by our modern standards. Thank goodness our parents put a stop to that trauma. If you were spanked by your parents as a form of punishment, you're likely a well-trained individual. And yes, I mean trained. You never acted up again. You do exactly what your parents and educators say without question. Your mistakes, your learning opportunities, are punished severely.
Because he's been a bad boy, we're gonna spank that ass! Hell yeah!
We're gonna spank that ass!
But you grew out of it, right? You moved on. There's no way an experience like that would shape you in your adult life. In psychology, there's a proposed model of childhood nurture influencing adult relationships. This is referred to as the attachment style hypothesis. The way you were raised significantly affects how you form friendships and partnerships over the course of your life. Even if you're not thinking about your childhood on a day-to-day basis, its effects are still felt decades later on a subconscious level. Let me ask you this. How do you respond to a crisis? A death in the family? An abusive partner? Or do you just have trouble meeting new people? Today, we take aim at attachment styles. How do I know which style I belong to? By knowing, can this affect my efforts to find a date? Is any of this even real? All of those answers and more in this video. Attachment styles, or types, reflect how you behave in romantic relationships, and are based on the emotional connection you formed as an infant with your primary caregiver, often your mother. According to attachment theory, pioneered by British psychiatrist John Bowlby and American psychologist Mary Ainsworth, the quality of the bonding you experienced during this first relationship often determines how well you can relate to other people and respond to intimacy throughout life. That is from helpguide.org. Basically, psychologists and therapists are able to analyze your current relationships and build a prediction of what the root cause of your dysfunction truly is. In many cases, this dysfunction stems from how you were parented as a child. If your primary caregiver made you feel safe, if they listened to your problems without dismissing them, you likely grew up to have very secure relationships. You're emotionally intelligent, and you can handle criticism. If your caregiver lashed out at you, if they used physical punishments, you might have some unresolved trauma that causes you to lash out at others, or fear being lashed out at. You might have some trust issues. But this is just one example. Psychologists have worked to build out 4 major types of individuals often seen in counseling. You might neatly fit into one of these categories, or you might be floating in between some of them. It's important to note that while you may discover an outside element to your shortcomings, your parents were mean to you and therefore you don't have a girlfriend, you can't really simplify it to this level when attempting to solve the problem. You might use this initial trauma as a jumping off point for how to improve an area of your life, but playing the blame game won't get you anywhere. As Help Guide puts it, the success of attachment isn't impacted by socioeconomic factors such as wealth, education, ethnicity, or culture. Neither is having an insecure attachment style as an adult reason to blame all your relationship problems onto your parents. The mind is elastic. It can shape itself to match its environment. Even if you faced trauma in the past, and the source of your pain is in no way your fault, it is unfortunately completely up to you to use this information to change your behaviors. You are in control. Let's jump into the first scenario. You're a child. You do childish things. The occasional tantrum, the awkward oversharing in public, the misunderstandings. Your parental figures remember how they were when they were your age, so they choose to be patient with you. They take the time to explain the rules, why we have the rules, and they don't punish you for your curiosity. Physical punishments like spanking are extremely limited, tame, or just non-existent. Maybe you have a rebellious teenage phase. They didn't respond to your brattiness with an overcorrection because they know it's just a phase. They let you go through your full character arc, basically. Congratulations, child. You are now securely attached. You're one of the lucky ones. This doesn't mean your parents were perfect, of course. Maybe you had the odd situation where they broke down, and you get the sense that they're struggling too. But for the most part, they had patience with you and understood that you were going to make mistakes. The most important thing they ever did was continue to try to understand your nonverbal cues, instead of dismissing you for being too different or difficult to understand. As an adult, this balanced parenting style has served you well. You might still have those typical anxieties with going up to that girl and asking for her number, but you understand on an emotional level that everyone is different and that your feelings have worth. You're a guy, but you're allowed to be a little emotional. You're actually quite comfortable with intimacy, and you're good at being both dependent and independent in relationships. You're also empathetic. You're able to set up healthy boundaries and communicate those boundaries. I'm uncomfortable when you, I'm sad when you, I'm turned on when you. Maybe you're in therapy because you recognized an imbalance in your relationship and you had the courage to admit there was a problem. You find satisfaction in being around others, but being apart while your partner is on a trip with her friends isn't going to kill you. Any setback is an opportunity to learn. You're not perfect, and neither is your partner, but you have the confidence to fail, and fail, and fail again, and then succeed. This is the healthiest of all attachment styles. To achieve collaboration and healthy relationships, everyone should strive to have a secure attachment style. We'll get into how to change your attachment style later on in the video, but for now, we need to discuss the other types. Most likely, you're not 100% secure. Very few people are. So you're in the common position of knowing where you want to end up. But first, you need to find your starting position. Let's jump into another scenario. This one is very similar to the first. You're a child, you do childish things. But this time, maybe your parents are a little inconsistent. They have their own bad days just like any parent, but they're not so good at processing those bad days. Let's say you have a problem as a child. You get home from school, and you can tell your mom or dad is in a bad mood. When you tell them that you need to make an emergency run to the store for a project that's due tomorrow, they get pissed and they make sure to let you know. How could you inconvenience me like this? They completely skip over the fact that you just learned about this project today, and you couldn't have known. Flash forward 2 weeks from now. Same situation. You find out you need to make an emergency run to Walmart. You remember how angry they were last time, but nevertheless, you tell your mom. She's actually had a pretty good day, so she responds the way a secure adult would respond. Okay, no problem, let's go to the store. This confuses you. One day she was angry at this request, another day she wasn't. You're not old enough to really process that she was just having a bad day the first time. You clearly weren't the cause of the anger, but she didn't take the time to make sure you knew that you weren't the cause of her anger. Have you ever heard of that experiment with the baby monkeys and the wire mother? The baby monkey is placed in a cage. There are 3 fake mothers, one that is actually soft and provides warmth. Maybe it's a stuffed animal or something. The second mother is all wires, and it will shock you if you touch it. The third mother is a mix of plush and wires. It will only shock you sometimes, in a way that the baby monkey can't predict. Researchers found that the strongest reproducible attachment was between the baby monkey and the mixed results mother, not the soft plush mother. An inconsistent parenting style creates the most dependent children, the most anxious children. As an adult with anxious attachment, you crave intimacy. You're overly demanding and overly dependent in your relationships, whether or not you realize it. As the name suggests, you're an anxious person. You feel a lot of hesitancy before talking to someone. Are they going to hate me? You don't even know this person, you have no reason to believe they're going to hate you. But the confusion in your childhood makes you overthink every interaction, which keeps you from meeting new people and reaching your full potential. You do crave that emotional connection, but you don't trust that people will respect it. If you are in a relationship and you have an anxious attachment style, you might be overly fixated on the other person. You really depend on them, and not in a healthy way. If they want their own space, you might view it as them slamming the door in your face. It's lacking the confidence that they'll still be there when you open that door. A lot of your self-worth rests on how you feel you are being treated in that relationship. You might overreact to any perceived weakness or threats in that relationship. I relate to this type a lot, although I don't feel that I'm completely congruent with the description. I tend to have a lot of anxiety, and I assume people don't like me before I even talk to them. I've never been in a relationship, so I don't know if I would be clingy. But knowing that this is a common response, I can watch out for it when I eventually do get to be in a relationship. I do crave intimacy to a certain extent, but at the same time, I'm scared of that intimacy, which is why I don't fit in cleanly with this definition. And maybe you don't either. Well, not to worry, there are other scenarios. You're a child again. You're doing childish things. But this time, no one is there to help you. No one cares. You were forced to emotionally distance yourself and self-soothe. Take care of your own problems. You had to come up with your own techniques of telling yourself that you'll be okay. You learned that intimacy was a waste of time, and the only person that you could count on was yourself. You rarely asked for help, because it never came anyway. Deep down, you're incredibly lonely, but admitting that would make you vulnerable. After all, you've gotten this far without help, so asking for help clearly isn't the answer. As an adult, you're very self-sufficient. To the outside world, you're one of the strongest-willed people they've met. You're perfectly capable of doing it all on your own. Well, maybe you are. Or maybe you would like some companionship, but just don't want to admit it. When people say they had strict parents, this is usually where they end up as a result. They were never helped with anything emotional, so they learn to take those emotions and stuff them down deep. They might seem detached from their close relationships, if they have any at all. They're very avoidant. Instead of craving intimacy, avoidant adults do the complete opposite and reject it. They're so wary of closeness with others that it's treated as a disease. They'd rather not have to rely on other people. They can have other people rely on them, but they have to appear overly strong and never weak. Never rely on anyone else. A lot of Boomer and Gen X dads are avoidant attached. Their father never listened to how they felt, and they learned to neglect their own emotions. A lot of them grew up during hard times, where people just didn't feel sorry for you. They went to work, and that was it. Can't let my wife know how terrified I am of screwing up, so I'll just work and pretend that it's all okay. This cycle is really difficult to get out of because it's often excused by saying, he's just selfless, willing to sacrifice anything to provide for others. Unfortunately, he doesn't realize that he's also sacrificing any real emotional connection with his son. He may even perceive any emotions in his son as a weakness and try to beat it out of him. And so, the cycle continues. But the dads aren't the only version of this that you tend to see. Avoidant attached people are often put off by intimacy, yes, but that doesn't mean they hate sex. They just hate the good parts of sex, the foreplay and the emotions. That's right, people who sleep around also tend to be avoidant attached. They like the immediate pleasures that come with the penetration, but the actual sex part of sex is minimized because they feel it will make them look too vulnerable. I do have the opinion that people approach sex differently, and you should be allowed to sleep around if you want to, but if it's to cover up an emotional imbalance, that's not good. Our final scenario is not a pretty one. You're a child, you do childish things. In response, your parent hits you. They might have a sliver of love for you on an unconditional level, but their response to your cries is to unload their trauma onto you. They're erratic, and it causes you to fear them. Your parents may also have been confused themselves. They desire intimacy, but they also fear it. As a child, you grew up feeling totally unworthy of love and respect. You're broken, down to your core. Worse, you never learned any techniques for self-soothing. You have a dependency on the world, but you also fear it. If you experienced abuse as a child, you're more likely to repeat it. because that sort of became your default state. It's everything you know, so it's what you repeat. You have fearful attachment, and to you, it's just completely normal. As an adult in an adult relationship, you swing between intense love and intense hate for your partner. You may try to manipulate them. You're paranoid about them. You're just as hard on yourself as you are on others. Like the avoidant attached, this creates a cycle that is very hard to break. If a child experiences abuse, they are likely to repeat the cycle. That's why getting help for your unresolved trauma is so important. It helps not only you, but any future children or grandchildren you may have. There's no sugarcoating it. The fearfully attached can often turn out to be the scariest individuals, and the ones most at risk for depression and substance abuse. Why do parents do this? Well, why are any of us human? People aren't perfect. We can't excuse these kinds of behaviors, especially abuse, but remember there's still a lot of stigma surrounding the idea of going to a therapist. Maybe your parents just weren't very good at it. Parenting is hard, and the world changes so fast, it's unreasonable to expect parents to be perfect. Maybe your parents had their own traumas that made them unable to communicate effectively. Maybe you had divorced parents, which made parenting you much harder. The point is, everyone has their own problems that they're trying to deal with on a daily basis, and it's unfair to blame them for not doing it completely right. Because here's the thing about the secure attachment style. It may be somewhat common, but it is really, really difficult to achieve. To play it perfectly, to create an environment with just a right amount of empathy, companionship, discipline, and independence. It's good to identify the source of your trauma, but don't let it stop you from healing. There will be some people who watch this video and use it as an excuse to give up. I'm anxious avoidant, that's what's wrong with me. It's not up to me to fix it, it's on my parents. It's not. It is up to you. Even in the extreme cases of abuse, it is up to you to take that leap, cut them out of your life, if necessary. Some of you might be confused by my sudden change of tone there. It almost sounds like I'm victim blaming. While I'm not, the reason I'm emphasizing action is because we've all seen those videos, the self-help kind of stuff, and my frustration with them stems from the idea that watching a 10-minute PowerPoint presentation is going to suddenly fix my life. Slapping a label on something that is not even really concrete, I always feel a bit empty after watching one of those, because rarely do they end with any accountability on the part of the audience. Sure, you want to stop blaming yourself, and you want to stop being so hard on yourself. But if you want to see change, you're going to have to be the one to make the change. In order to make this change, we have to analyze how these insecure attachments affect our lives. There's several different hypotheses out there, because the field of psychology is always changing. The first of these is the continuity hypothesis. This states that the behavioral attachment system does not conclude after childhood, which you might have assumed. It's active throughout your lifespan. Your environment continues to have a tangible effect on how you see the world. These patterns of behavior might begin in childhood, but they continue to happen well into your adult life. Why? It could be because you naturally seek out an environment that you're familiar with. Let's say you've identified yourself as anxious avoidant. You're anxious, you crave intimacy, and you're afraid of the relationship exploding. This is the reality for you, and you might seek out people who think like you do. Not only are you anxious attached, but so are your friends. According to the continuity hypothesis, experiences with childhood attachment figures are retained over time and used to guide perceptions of the social world and future interactions with others. Now, the generational hypothesis is the result of what we've observed in those who are avoidant attached. Attachment styles might be transmitted through the generations. They carry over. The nature of being a child means you mimic your parents. You learn how to navigate the world by watching them. And if they're having a bad time navigating the world themselves, you're going to copy those bad behaviors. Bad templates make bad copies. There's also the nature of these behaviors being cyclical. Avoidant fathers attempt to raise emotionally distant sons because they perceive feelings as weaknesses that need to be extinguished. In this case, behaviors are passed down not by the child being unintentionally shaped by the world, but by the world intentionally trying to shape the child. Both are reasons these behaviors are so hard to shake. Both of these hypotheses, the continuity and generational ways of thinking, are constructed from something called the internal working model. Here's how it works. It begins as a mental and emotional representation of the infant's first relationship, and that interaction becomes a template that the child will apply to every situation moving forward. Some believe these templates are very simple. My parents were mean to me, which must be the default state of the world. I must have to be mean to other people as an adult. But others think these internal models are more complex, with rules for engagement based on thousands of possible interactions you might have with someone. With that first childhood interaction acting as more of a rough outline for your decision making. Some believe that your familial bonds operate by an entirely different schema than your romantic relationships, and that these connections are loose at best. What's important to take away from all of this is that while, yes, your parents and their parenting style continues to shape you as you mature into an independent and capable adult, remember that it is possible to break those bonds and reformat your brain to give you the results that you want. You can have those healthy relationships. You can become securely attached if you work hard at it. Here's a few ways to change your attachment style. Now, changing this thing is not easy. However, it is possible. You can go from secure to insecure if a child unexpectedly loses one of their parents. It can also become more secure, which is what we want, and that is called earned secure attachment. It's possible mainly through therapy. But if you don't have access to a therapist, there are still some exercises you can try. Through these repeated exercises, you can rewire your brain to trust people again. Number 1. Nonverbal communications. These are always slept on when we're talking about relationships. Even if you aren't aware of it, you're constantly giving off signals through your body language. You're also picking up signals from other people. If someone looks relaxed, for example, you might feel more comfortable approaching them. You don't consciously think, oh, their shoulders are down, their eyes are half closed, they must be relaxed. No, your brain does the heavy lifting for you. To improve your own nonverbal communication, practice being fully aware in the moment. When you listen to someone else talk, don't be thinking about what you're going to say next. Just listen to their words and pay attention to what their body is telling you. You might pick up on details you would have otherwise missed. You also need to recognize your own stress levels. When you're overly stressed, you misread signals from others. Every little flinch will look like a slap when you're on edge. The next time you're stressed and have to make an important decision, if you can, remove yourself from the situation. You need to come back to this decision when you've calmed down. Number 2, boost your emotional intelligence.
Increase your intelligence?
Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand your in-the-moment feelings and use them in a healthy way. This might involve removing bias from your decision-making. Do I really want to act this way, or is this being caused by someone else? When you slow down and really analyze why you're acting the way you are, you start to be able to communicate those emotions verbally. A more emotionally intelligent husband will say to his wife, "Hey, I've just had a bad day today, and I'd like to be alone for a few hours so I can cool off. I'm sorry if I snap at you, I don't mean to." Improving your emotional intelligence might involve identifying triggers. Does hearing this sound make me irrationally angry? Because let's be honest, everybody has that one sound that drives them up a wall. It's okay to have a pet peeve. You just need to confirm what it is and communicate this with the people around you. Number 3, develop relationships with people who are securely attached already. If you're single and still watching this video, you can seek out a relationship with intention. You know you're looking for someone who seems secure themselves. This goes for romantic relationships as well as friendships. As people, we often mimic the behaviors and language patterns of those around us. If you surround yourself with good people, you will become a good person. Basically, anything you can do to begin to trust people again will move you closer to becoming securely attached. It really is all about trust. The insecurely attached either don't trust others or don't trust themselves. It's hard to trust people in a world like this, but it has to be done in order to move forward. There's one last hypothesis I want to cover, the father hypothesis. For this section, I'm just going to read this article to you. A study published in Frontiers in Psychology in August 2021 found that paternal avoidance negatively predicts the attachments of their children, with harsh parenting from fathers having a more negative impact on their children when compared to the effects of maternal harsh parenting. Basically, if a father parents his children badly, that has more of a negative effect than if the mother parents their children badly. According to a study published in the American Journal of Men's Health in December 2021, the anger of fathers tends to be associated with anxious father-child attachment and the anxiety levels of their children. Researchers analyzed surveys from over 900 pairs of fathers and their adolescents, and found that paternal adult attachment avoidance had an impact on adolescent anxiety. Behavioral health medical director at Community Health of South Florida, Inc., psychiatrist Howard Pratt D.O. says, "The secure attachment style is the ideal and represents fathers who are in control of their emotions and able to recognize when things are bothering them. They will seek support from those close to them when they need it, and they will also offer support when they see people they are close to who are not doing well. They basically provide positive and constructive support to their children and to others." With the anxious type, Dr. Pratt notes how these people may alienate those close to them, as they tend to have a negative self-image. They want to be close to people, but they feel that people close to them will leave them, and so engage in people-pleasing behaviors, he says. Those with the avoidant dismissive attachment style have negative views of people. They seek independence, and can sometimes be uncomfortable with closeness and emotional intimacy. When you have an anxious father, they are more likely to overreact, and they can be more controlling and interfere with their children's lives. This can lead to conflict, particularly in adolescence. With the avoidant type, Dr. Pratt notes that fathers are more likely to ignore their child's needs. Fathers with anxious and avoidant attachment styles are more likely to have anxious children, he says. Dr. Pratt highlights that no person fits 100% into one of those attachment styles, so fathers may find themselves slipping into one or another of these styles without noticing, but loved ones may feel the shifts. To reach the goal of being a secure father, it's all about being aware of your emotions and making sure you're doing what is best for your child, which does include taking care of your own mental health. It's important to look at things from different lenses, particularly the child's lenses, and understand that if you're speaking to a child, they may not be able to discern the difference between you being upset with them and you not loving them. It's crucial to establish a relationship with stable attachment from early on. Dr. Pratt notes that children need to understand that they are loved even when being corrected. Children of parents who are adaptable and in touch with their own emotions do better. Another researcher concludes this by saying, "Children may learn the mistakes of their fathers and make every effort possible to break the cycle." As a man, I know that I'm sort of predisposed to disregarding my emotions, but it's so important to remember what this is all for. Go to therapy. Talk to your girlfriend. Become the emotionally intelligent man that we all know you can be. We're not spanking our kids with paddles. We're the generation who has taken a symbol of discipline such as the paddle and turned it into something different and something pleasurable rather than frightening. Sure, parenting is hard, and no parent is ever perfect, but it's up to you to break the cycle. Thank you for watching. I love you all. Good night. The Sprite and lemonade combo. Has anyone else done this? I've never done this because I have severe acid reflux, and Sprite with lemonade just sounds like a shitstorm waiting to happen. Vegetables? Ew, you guys suck. No vegetables. Ugh. Especially those slimy fajitas. But okay, we've got steak burrito. I'd rather do chicken, but okay. White rice. I'm sorry, but brown rice is just better and better for you. No beans is a crime. It's not like the worst thing in the world, but I don't like that you have just steak and rice and no beans. You've got lettuce, sour cream, pretty good, mild and hot salsas. The thing is, if you have a burrito and it's just rice, and then you have a bunch of like liquids, that's gonna be a drippy burrito. Yeah, I get it, rice like absorbs liquids well. That's why Chipotle orders are always so heavy, because they're soggy rice basically at the end of the day. But for a burrito, I would recommend you double wrap this one, because you've got a lot of liquids, sour cream, and then 2 salsas. And then no beans to absorb that. That's not good.